Raised by wolves with canine DNA in his blood, having trained more than 24,000 pets, helping you and your fur babies thrive. Live in studio, it's Pet Talk Today with Will Bangura, answering your pet behavior and training questions. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your host and favorite pet behavior expert, Will Bangura.
Good Saturday morning, pet lovers. I'm Will Bangura.
And I'm Jordan Marsteller.
And you're listening to another episode of Pet Talk Today on our Facebook live stream. We're here each and every Saturday morning from 9 until 10 a.m. Pacific time. That's also Central time. That's 12 noon to 1 p.m. Eastern time. Be sure to join us. Hey, do us a favor. Hit that like button and hit your share button so that more people can benefit from it. But hit that like button and show us some love. Also, in the comments section, if you would please put in there where you're watching from, what kind of pet you have, and what your pet's name is. If you're brand new to Pet Talk Today, let me talk a little bit about what we do. This is a labor of love for us. Not everybody can afford private in-home training. And so every Saturday we do a show, and a lot of times we're doing Q&A where we take your phone calls, we answer your questions that you put in the comments section, and then oftentimes we've got a special show where we might be talking about a specific issue. That could be dog aggression, it could be separation anxiety, it could be potty training, it could be a number of different things, fears, phobias, the 4th of July and fireworks. We might be talking about obedience training. We might be talking about puppy training. And sometimes we also have shows about health. You definitely want to make sure that you tune in next Saturday, August 6th. We've got Dr. Karen Becker, who is a veterinarian. She is a veterinary nutritionist, and she wrote a New York Times bestseller. It's called Forever Dog, and she talks about some of the things that we absolutely need to know in order for our pets to thrive when it comes to vaccinations, when it comes to diet and nutrition. There's a lot of things. Next Saturday, be sure to join us. For sure. Like I said, we oftentimes are taking your calls. We are answering your questions. So, Jordan, do you want to go ahead, give out the number
Absolutely.
that they can call in on?
Good Saturday morning. My name is Jordan Marsteller. So, thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. We absolutely love doing this. If you have your questions, please give us a call at 602-525-6880. Again, that number is 602-525-6880.
Yeah, don't be shy. There's no stupid question. This is your opportunity to be able to ask the experts about your dog, training and behavior issues. We also talk about cats. Maybe you've got a problem with your cat. We're happy to help you with that as well. But yeah, give us a call or post your questions in the comments section. Please hit that like button. Please share this video onto your feed. All right. We might have a call coming in here.
Thanks for calling Pet Talk Today. State your name and location. What's your question?
All right. Hi, I'm calling from South Dakota. My name is Carrie.
Hello, Carrie. Hello.
Hey, Carrie, can you do us a favor and whatever you're listening or watching the show on,
South Dakota. My name
can you turn down? Yeah, that way we don't have that echo.
Thank you,
Perfect.
Carrie.
How can we help you, Carrie?
I'm thinking about adding a third dog to the two I have already. What do you recommend with introduction?
Well, part of that is knowing, what your other two dogs are, what their temperament, what their demeanor is, and then finding out a little information about the third dog that you're bringing in. The two dogs that you currently have, what type of dogs are they? How old are they?
Sheila is 9. She's a brown Australian Shepherd, brown lab mix. Very calm, very sweet dog. Creamer is my one-eyed little diva. She is a Chihuahua, Red Heeler, and I think Golden Lab mix.
Okay.
She's pretty cool. She gets a little excited, but not aggressively.
How old is she?
She's about 5.
She's about 5. Okay. Both your females, are they spayed?
Yep, they're both spayed.
Okay. Now, talk to me about this third dog you want to bring into the mix.
Well, I've been browsing the Humane Society site, and there's 2 dogs I'm looking at. One is a German Shepherd, sorry, a Blue Heeler mix. Her name is Ari. She's 2 years old. She seems very friendly. And then there's a 7-year-old German Shepherd Rottweiler mix, whose name is Smiley. And she is advertised as a pretty calm dog.
Okay. So I really take introducing new dogs very cautiously because you can do one little thing wrong and then it just kind of ruins the situation, and then maybe you can't then integrate the dogs. You know, a lot of people think that dogs should be these social butterflies, that they should love all dogs and they should play in every dog park and everything should be wonderful. When, quite frankly, you know, your dogs might be nervous about this new dog coming in. The new dog coming in is definitely going to be nervous about being in a new place with new dogs. So I don't like to have dogs, when they're meeting each other for the first time, running up to each other, where they can,
absolutely not.
Yeah, where they can have contact. Now, we want to have the dogs on leash, and we want to start this outside. The bigger the area, the more open the area, the less stress there is. And if a dog does get aggressive, it's because they're anxious, they're nervous, they find something threatening. Now, there might not be a real threat, but they find something as threatening. We want to make this as non-threatening for both the new dog and the 2 dogs that you currently have at home by starting this outside where we've got a lot of open space, by putting them on leash, having them all moving. Movement dissipates stress. If they're just standing still, sitting still, they could look at one of the dogs, they could start to fixate, and they could start getting nervous and anxious, and maybe they start growling or become reactive. We don't want that. So staying at quite a distance outside, having them on leash, having the dogs all moving, they don't need to connect right away. You want to be able to read what is their body language telling you. What's their body language saying? Are they calm, cool, collected? Are they in a state where there's not a care in the world? Or do they look anxious and nervous? Because if they look anxious and nervous, I'm not going to get any of the dogs any closer. What I'm going to do is I might back the dog up that is giving signs that it's a little anxious and nervous, and create a little more space. And when I get to that space, that magical space, that circumference of comfort, there's a magical distance where a dog all of a sudden is comfortable being at a certain distance from a trigger, and then there's a specific spot where they're uncomfortable. We need to find where those lines are, okay? We call that threshold. A threshold is something that we don't want the dog going over threshold. That's when they have care, concern, worry, they're reactive. Again, when we introduce dogs, it needs to be at a distance, on leash, they should be moving, and the dog should be far enough away that they don't have a care in the world about one another, and you should start feeding high-value food rewards. Then go out of sight. Then come back into sight with the dogs and start feed constantly and continuously. High-value food rewards, so that now you're pairing something very positive, the food, with the trigger. I'm going to call everything a trigger until we know how the dogs are going to respond. And we want to start being proactive, doing the right thing, making a positive association with the new dog. And for the new dog, making positive associations with the current dogs that you have. Now, if you have good body language, then you can come a little closer and move the dogs around, but a little bit closer. Read that body language. If the dog's calm, cool, and collected, feed, constantly and continuously, high-value food rewards. If they're showing they don't have a care in the world, go a little bit closer. And little by little, gradually, systematically, you're going to get closer and closer. But it's all about reading the body language. I don't let my dogs have high energy displays of behavior where it's high energy around other dogs, because a dog could get nervous. I may have the friendliest dog in the world, but it's got a lot of energy.
Right.
And it might just want to play.
Yeah.
And it gets real excited real fast, makes a fast movement. Well, the other dog might be a little leery of dogs. And that fast movement, that excitability could trigger a dog to want to go into fight or flight. And so when I don't know, when it's a new dog that I've got to expose a dog to, I'm going to assume that there's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
I'm always erring on the side of caution.
Always. Whenever my dog whenever there's the possibility of my dog meeting another dog, I always am extremely cautious. You never, ever know what is going to happen with these other dogs. Plain and simple.
So that is my take on how I would do it. And if I do see nervousness on any of the dogs, well, I'm not going to let them connect. I'm going to keep on day in and day out doing these exercises of counter conditioning, desensitization. The counter conditioning is just a fancy word for, hey, the dog gets presented with the new dog. When it sees it, feed constantly and continuously. You're pairing, you're associating something wonderful with something that might be a little bit scary. The dog may have a little bit of anxiety, but it's all about body language. And when you get calm body language, you get a little closer. And then what I do when I've got really good calm body language and the two dogs connect for a second, that's what they connect for, a second. And then I pull them away and I start moving them around, maybe healing with them again. Then I bring them back together. They get about 2 seconds and I pull them away. And then I bring them back together. And maybe they get 3 to 5 seconds. Gradually, I'm not giving them a bunch of time to potentially start displaying behavior that could get either dog nervous. I want calm, cool, collected behavior.
Exactly.
Does that make sense to you? Is that something you think you could work with?
That makes a lot of sense. It actually kind of sounds a bit like a dance.
It is a dance.
That is exactly what it is.
That's what we do. We dance with dogs on a regular basis.
Absolutely.
And it's a team effort, and it is back and forth. A lot of people would avoid a lot of dog fights if they did this, but a lot of times what they do is they say, hey, let's throw them in the backyard. They'll work it out on their own.
No. I bought a kennel just in case. I'm going to put the dog in separate rooms during feeding time, and I'm going to be going through the adopter at the Humane Society before introducing the dogs in, and making sure the dog's okay with me first, and then do it one at a time. I don't want to cause any misunderstanding.
No,
absolutely.
That's the right way to be able to do that. So give that a try. Hey, we appreciate the call. That was a fantastic question.
And so we have another question here from Christian. Christian, if you're still watching, please share where you're from and where you're what kind of dog you're working with.
Hit that like button, folks.
Yes, please.
More people get to see this when you hit the like button.
So Christian says that they have a pit bull pug chihuahua mix, and she was doing so good potty training and then got her first heat cycle. Now she's regressing in her potty training and keeps going to the bathroom inside. Well, first things first, I want to address a few things. I firstly want to ask, did she just get her first heat cycle within the last, month or two? Because what else is going on right now? It's summer, and we have had such a huge heat
where
wave.
They're from. We don't know where they're from.
Oh yeah, if they're here in Phoenix, that's right. If they're from here in the Valley. But it is also summertime, so wherever you are, it may be getting hotter. And that's the first thing that I want to look at is it starting to get hot outside? Mm-hmm. My dog, Harley, has actually had 2 accidents inside last week when it was like an average of 112 every day. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she didn't want to go outside.
That's a real problem in Arizona. Usually it's little dogs. They don't want to go outside. It's aversive. It's like punishment because it's 110, 112.
Right.
And we do sometimes see dogs then going to the bathroom in the house. However, I do want to say, first heat cycle, second, third, doesn't matter. Your dog went through a lot of hormonal Okay, hormonal changes, hormonal shifts. Also, most likely, there's probably some drops from the estrus that were happening, and that's almost like marking as well. So, what you've got to do is you got to start all over from scratch.
Yeah.
With potty training. And I know you're probably saying she knows that she's doing something wrong. No, she doesn't. She knows she knows you're upset about something.
Yep.
If she knew she did something wrong, she would stop doing it. Okay. But you got to start all over from potty training. Now, we have a 45-minute in-depth podcast that specifically deals with everything that you need to do to successfully potty train even the most difficult of dog, older dog, or puppy. So go to the Pet Talk Today podcast. You can find that on Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, any of the different podcast hosting platforms. What you're going to look for is Season 1, Episode 16. Again, that's Season 1, Episode 16, 45 minutes of in-depth information how to successfully potty train any dog, even the most difficult of dogs. I will tell you right now, the number one rule is supervise. That dog is in your eyesight at all times. And when you cannot watch your dog, the dog needs to be crated. The dog needs to be confined. So the number one rule, supervise or confine. It's not the end of the world if a dog has an accident. What's the end of the world and where things won't get better is if the dog continues to have accidents and you're not there to be able to have a consequence for the dog. We like to, when they have an accident, use negative punishment, which is just taking away something that the dog likes. Most dogs want their freedom. They have an accident. I go ahead and put them in the crate for about 2 minutes. Now, some of you are probably saying, hey, I thought we're not supposed to use the crate as a punishment. It's supposed to be a safe place. The dog is not going to view that crate as punishment. Because the dog's there well after a behavior. We are pairing the loss of freedom with the accident.
Yeah.
Not the presentation of a timeout.
Exactly.
Okay, so again, Season 1, Episode 16 for the Potty Training Podcast. Go to Apple Podcasts, look up Pet Talk Today, and do us a favor. If you like what we're doing, please give us a review on Apple Podcasts. Give us a review on Google Podcasts. We need that. The more reviews we get, the better our rankings, the more people get to
and I actually put the link. I actually put the link straight to the Spotify link for that episode right into the comments. Now, we also have, it looks like,
let's give out the phone number again.
Yeah,
too.
absolutely.
If you have a question.
Yeah, if you have a question, you can call us at 602-525-6880. Please call us in and ask your question.
Again, the number is 602-525-6880. We want to hear from you so we can help you with your dog or cat training and behavior issues. You said we got a question in the comments.
Yeah, absolutely. We have lots of them. So
all right, let's go down the line.
Yeah, so we're going to go back up, and we have a question from Lisa. Lisa says that they have a puppy who thinks that he is the alpha, and whenever the other two dogs try to put him in his place, he does not back down. He's also always snapping at the other dogs' faces. We cannot get him to realize that he is not the alpha. We really need help getting him to realize his place in the pack. Can you help us?
Well, first of all, we need to talk about this whole thing about alpha.
I agree.
Okay? Everybody thinks that an alpha dog is this badass.
Yeah.
That this alpha dog's going to put people in their place. And that's why a lot of trainers out there spewing information that has no basis in science, telling human beings that your dog is dominant and that you need to give them an alpha role, that you need to be alpha, you need to show them who's boss. Guess what? An alpha dog has this air about them like they're a king.
They don't bite.
Like they're a deity.
The alpha dog doesn't bite.
They don't have to.
They don't have to.
They don't have to. There's an air and a respect about it. Now, these dogs that are the badass dogs, trying to be alpha, that's a beta dog.
That's right.
That's an alpha wannabe.
Fear. Believe it or not.
That's fear.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's fear. Your dog's not trying to be alpha. Your dog's afraid.
Yeah.
Your dog's afraid. And what you need to do is find out, okay, at what distance in what location, with what trigger is this dog afraid? You think it's trying to be alpha. It's snapping at them because it's saying, I want distance and space, get away.
That's right.
You're scaring me. Whatever that situation is.
Absolutely.
And what you're going to need to do is you're going to have to start presenting that dog to the other dogs at a distance where this other dog that you think is trying to be alpha doesn't have a care in the world, where it's not snapping at the other dogs, when it's not displaying that behavior. It's at that distance we have a good emotional state. And when we present the dogs, we then, again, we need to counter condition. We need to desensitize. We need to associate something positive with the dogs rather than your other dog viewing these dogs as scary and being anxious. We want your dog to view them as positive, if nothing else, neutral. And so what we have to do is we have to not see the dogs. Boom, they're gone. And boom, dogs come back together. Here we go. And we feed constantly and continuously for about 5 seconds. We separate them. They can't see each other. Bring them back together. When they see each other, feed constantly and continuously for about 5 seconds. Separate them.
Yep.
And you're going to do that for about 5-10 minutes. A 15-minute session would be very long.
Absolutely.
And you're going to do this 3 to 5 times a week.
And let me tell you something about this. If you're going to go 15 minutes, you had better be amazing at reading body language, because 15 minutes of your dog being over threshold and being stressed is a long time.
And you don't want that, because think about what you would be doing. If your dog's emotional state is stressful and you begin to pair an association of food, you're now reinforcing a emotional state where the dog is scared. You might as well just be saying, hey, good dog, be scared. Good dog, be scared, be scared. Oh, what a good dog, what a good dog. No, we can't do that. And again, this whole business about alpha, that's garbage.
Just type into Google dominance theory disproved.
Right.
And you're going to find so many articles about why that theory that was originally developed by, here we go.
Bunk.
And it was developed observing wolves in, guess what?
Captivity.
So first things first, that's not actual wolf behavior. That's not natural wolf behavior.
Right.
I want you to think, if you've ever had a roommate in your entire life, if you've ever had a roommate that was not your wife, your husband, or your children, after living with them for a short amount of time, you probably started getting sick of them really quick. And by the time that they left, they might not have been your friend anymore. And so in captivity, we had multiple packs of wolves in the same exact enclosures. As a result, they started fighting. They started competing for that alpha position, and thus dominance theory was born. Then we took that theory and applied it to a different species of animal. It doesn't make any sense. Dominance theory does not exist in dogs.
And here, not in domesticated dogs.
Oh, yeah.
And here's the other thing, is that the term alpha,
Yeah.
this is what I don't get. Where did this get lost? The term alpha means breeding pair. The alpha male, the alpha female breeding pair.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for calling Pet Talk today. Where are you calling from? Hello?
Hello, caller. Can you hear us?
Hello.
Well, guess not. Okay. Well, call back if for some reason we lost you. No, but the whole thing about alpha. Alpha means breeding pair. You've got the mother and the father, okay? Those are alpha. And all it means is breeding pair.
Absolutely.
All it means is breeding pair. Okay. We can do, and we should do a whole show just on dominance theory, alpha, and really get through that and get people to understand what's going on. I'm Will Bangura.
And I'm Jordan Marsteller.
And you are listening to Pet Talk. Today we're here on Facebook with our Facebook Live each and every Saturday morning from 11 until 12 Eastern Time. That's 9 until 10 Pacific Time. We've got a caller.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for calling in. This is Pet Talk Today. Where are you calling from? Hello.
You have it switched over so it's going through Rode and not the speakerphone?
Yeah, let me make sure. See what's going on here.
We are having technical difficulties, but we want to take your calls for some reason.
Can you hear us? Hello.
Hello.
There we go.
Perfect. Thanks for calling in. This is Pet Talk Today. Where are you calling from?
Hi, my name is Sable. I'm calling from Columbus, Georgia.
All right.
All
You know,
right.
we have a lot of listeners in Georgia.
Yeah.
That's the the state with the second most listeners to our
Yeah.
show. We love Georgia.
Absolutely.
We need your help.
All right, talk to us. What's going on?
All right. So I was thinking about breeding my dogs. What are some do's and don'ts, and how will that affect just what do you think about that regarding temper wise, or will I see a difference in my dogs?
You know, so the first thing that I want to say is that I personally am not the person to ask this question to.
And I was going to toss it to you, so I guess it's back to me. Okay.
Yeah.
So my first question would be, why do you want to breed your dog?
Yeah.
For the love of the dogs, I'm going to get 2 Westies. I have one on the way. And West Highland Terriers is the passion that I have. I bought one years ago, and I just love their demeanor.
Yep.
I personally think where I'm at, we need those type of dogs around here. If I can get a Westie in every home, I mean, I would love it. That's why.
Yeah, this is my caution. Breeding is a lot of work. It's a lot of work. It's exhausting. It's unbelievable. And if you've never done it, you need to find a breeder and you need to hang out with them and find out what this all entails, number one. Number two, I really caution people when they're breeding dogs to stay away from a breeding program that is designed to bring about a very specific look for the breed. When we start messing around with the physical appearance, there's a price to pay in behavior. And there's a lot of bad breeding that is going on out there. And we've got a lot of dogs out there that need homes. I always caution people about breeding. I know, and God love the good breeders that are out there. I love a good purebred dog. But there's a lot of dogs being bred that are really being bred bad. The biggest thing, I think, for breeding is understanding what you're getting yourself into, number one. So, again, shadowing somebody who does breed dogs. And then number two, really educating yourself and finding out very specifically what early exposure and socialization those puppies need from the time their eyes open up until the time they're homed with their forever family. Because these puppies are sitting there from 3 weeks when they open their eyes until 8 weeks, and they're not getting exposed to anything. The breeders are not getting them looking at different sights, feeling different textures, hearing different sounds, seeing, lots of different things. There's a critical window for dogs to be socialized and exposed, and most people think it's much later in the game than what it is. It's 3 weeks to 13 weeks of age. And by the time we get to about 14 weeks, 15, 16 weeks, we've got things hardwired. So if those puppies weren't exposed to things, they very well are going to have some fears to a lesser or greater degree with things that they never saw, that they were not exposed to. But as far as changing a behavior of a dog by breeding them, certainly there might be some short-term behaviors that you might see, and they might be behaviors that you need to be cautious about, where, the bitch could be very territorial of the pups, very protective of the pups.
Right.
Usually when, the pups are gone, give it a couple weeks and things are back to normal with things. But anyway, that's my take. I don't know if that helps or not.
Yeah, that does help because I've never done breeding before. I've always had my dogs spayed and neutered.
Yeah.
However, with the dog, the current dog I have now, who is a West Highland Terrier, I fell in love with their breed, and I find that it's super hard to find Westies here. Now, of course, there's places around, but where I'm from, there's not many. And I think it's a really good breed to introduce to people as well. So that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
However, you gave me really good information regarding those vital moments they have at from 3 to, you said 16 weeks.
Well, 3 to 13 weeks, but then you start getting towards 16 and things are really hardwired. You know, the other thing that I want to mention, because I didn't bring this up, is I had one litter. I bred 2 labs that I had. And, you know, I really thought, hey, breeding, this can be this wonderful thing. I'm going to start this great line of labs, you know, because I think labs are great dogs, but I really want the temperament to be just right. And it was one of the most exhausting. Let me tell you something. Being a parent with a human child is a piece of cake to breeding dogs. It's a piece of cake.
Right.
Really?
It's a piece of cake.
Hang on. Okay. Because, you know, you obviously, the viewer, not all of our viewers know this, but I am a father as well. I have a 4-year-old. And let me tell you something. The hardest thing I have ever done in my life is raising that boy. Yeah. Breeding is harder than that. That is crazy.
Let me tell you something. You're always dealing with feces. You're always dealing with urine. You're always dealing with cleaning up. You're bathing puppies constantly throughout the day. Let me tell you something. You don't work. You can't work and be a breeder.
Yeah, the breeding is your job.
No, that's your job. Trust me, you got to be there. All right, mom might eat one of the puppies.
Oh Lord,
happens.
Oh no! My dog got.
They reject the puppies.
My dog did get pregnant, but we had a neighbor's dog hop the fence. You know.
And sometimes, and sometimes you gotta get your hand in there and help out. Sometimes I don't know if you're prepared for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No. Well, I'm prepared for that. However, you know, I do work, but you know, me and my husband work different shifts, so you know, someone will always be with them. But definitely, that is something to think about, and I definitely want to raise the best dog as far as the temperament as possible. My goal was to just have Westies available so that people can enjoy that.
Well, what I want you to do is I want you to get on the Google machine. Go to the Google thing. I want you to Google Vollard. Doesn't matter how you spell it. You can spell it phonetically. Vollard with a V. Puppy aptitude test. And in there, they have a section, they're talking about breeders and breeding. Invaluable information. I want every breeder, if there are other breeders out there, go look up the Vollard Puppy Aptitude Test. You need to know the things that you're not doing with these puppies from 3 weeks until they go home at 8 weeks. And then you need to be telling the parents what they need to be doing. As far as, you know, socializing and exposing them as well. That's the number. You know, the number one problem that we have is the fact that we have to try to get these dogs socialized when it's too late. And that's a huge issue. But anyway, we appreciate your call. Hopefully that will help you as well. Like I said, breeding's a tough thing. Go ahead and really follow a breeder around for a day or two. If you can find one to let you spend the night. I don't know if you can, but
absolutely.
It's harder than having a child. I want you, you know, you're up constantly.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're praying for that 8 weeks to come by and that these puppies you've been able to home.
Yeah. All right. So let's see. We have quite a few questions. Actually, we have somebody that, the alpha dog that we were talking about earlier, Lisa. Lisa, if you're still watching, I would love to talk more. She called in and I actually missed her phone call. Please call back once you get a chance.
Lisa, give us a call back. That number is 602-525-6880.
That is correct. And guys, sorry, if we are in the middle of a phone call and you call in, I am just going to send you straight to voicemail.
Yeah, we only have one line.
Yeah, we only have one line right now. We are still, you know, we're doing this all on our own. So I have just an iPhone and we've got everything hooked up here. But Kathleen actually Karen messaged us this morning before the show. And she is desperately needing help to train her sweet but bullheaded 6-month-old puppy how to be better potty trained. And we talked a little bit about that. So
there is no such thing as a bullheaded dog. There is no such thing as a stubborn dog.
Absolutely.
You don't know how to motivate them.
Absolutely. And the thing is, she made a comment in there without a crate. Here's the thing. It's not going to happen. I mean, unless you want your dog to be connected to you, you are staying up and checking on your dog every 30 minutes, even throughout the night. and your dog is on leash, hooked to your side, even while you're sleeping, to make sure that they can't go off and use the potty somewhere. But when it comes to this potty training, Karen, it is really, really, really simple. It's just inconvenient. First thing that you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and start a potty training log, right? Keep a potty training.
Unknown caller.
All right. And Karen, we will get back to your question, but callers do take priority. Please call in and we'll answer that potty training
Let's
question.
go ahead and take that call.
Thanks for calling Pet Talk today.
Just got to turn down our computer.
All right. And Karen, we will get back to your question, but callers do take priority. Please
Hey,
call
do
in.
us a favor because there is a delay.
Yep,
If you're-
turn it off.
Yeah, turn off your phone or your computer.
Thank you.
Where you're watching us on Facebook. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
All
So
right, thanks
this
for
is
calling.
Lisa. I'm calling you back about my
Ah.
dog.
Hello, Lisa.
Hello. So it's actually my daughter's dog, and she's here. And this has been a really interesting situation in our family because we have 3 dogs.
Okay.
So we have a corgi, a shepherd mix, and now we have introduced a Sheltie puppy.
Okay.
And so we've had a Sheltie in the past. She was amazing. This Sheltie is not as amazing. She's much more challenging to the family. You talked about the dominance and about his fears.
Yeah.
This dog doesn't have much to fear. As far as he has such confidence that it's kind of scary. And that's part of the problem is we're trying to let him realize that it's not okay. He has food aggression now, where if another dog comes near him, even if we pull up the dishes and everything, he goes after them, and it gets really aggressive. And he's only, how old is he? 9 months? 9 months.
So let me just, I got to stop you. Stop you.
Yeah, sure.
The dog doesn't have confidence.
Yeah.
The dog is afraid. It has anxiety. No animal goes into fight or flight unless they perceive a threat.
And let's talk about this from a legitimate, actual scientific standpoint. Fight or flight is activated with cortisol, norepinephrine, right? Cortisol is our stress hormone. Literally, from a chemical standpoint, what's happening with this food aggression? Let's talk about that. This is the
The
fear.
adrenaline from the norepinephrine, for fight or flight.
Yeah, exactly. And so what's happening is your dog is actually fearful of scarcity. That's where resource guarding comes from. So it's a lack of confidence that is making him go, oh, no, I'm going to lose this food if this dog comes nearby, so I have to stop them from taking the food. His reaction is just, instead of running away, he lashes out.
And the other thing that you have to take into consideration is there's 2 different things. There's the action, there's the behavior, but underlying that behavior is an emotional state.
Absolutely, which is turning on that behavior.
Right. And, your dog has 3 choices: fight, flight, or freeze whenever it is in a situation that it views stressful, where it's going to be reactive like that. Okay. Unless you can tell us every time that dog is being reactive that there's some kind of real threat being presented to the dog, and then that would be a normal behavior.
Absolutely.
And that's
So,
usually not the case.
Right. So they all have their own, we all do, as far as when they eat, they all have their own place
Good.
where they eat. And what happens is after everybody's done, he'll try to go to their food bowl before we pick it up. Look, we're going to pick it up. And then he'll attack the other dog.
Yeah, so the first thing is, whenever we have a multiple dog household, whether you have a resource guarding problem or not, I always recommend that the dogs don't get to interact with each other during feeding time. So the first step that you have to do is management. Management is the first thing that needs to happen here. So you need to set it up in such a way that when he's done eating his food, he should not be able to get to those other dogs in their food bowls, and other dogs should not be able to get to him.
Let's
either.
explain this. So when we talk about management, we're not not talking about, this is the way that you do things forever.
Yeah.
But we know that there's a problem.
Right.
And what we've got to do to begin with, until we've done the behavior modification work to modify that behavior, we've got to set it up in such a way that day to day, there's no way possible for the dog to engage in that behavior, because if the dog continues, every time it happens, it gets more and more conditioned. And we say it all the time. First thing we got to do is stop the dog from rehearsing the behavior, because there's always a reinforcer. There's always a reinforcer for a behavior, or behavior would extinguish. Now, a lot of times we don't see, okay, what is the reward? What's that reinforcer? Okay. But if a dog views a situation that's in front of them as scary, and that's their emotional state, there's anxiety, some level of fear. It doesn't have to be terrified, but some level of anxiety, some level of fear, some level of concern. And then with that emotional state, now the behavior becomes reactive.
Right.
Okay. And if the next thing that happens, that real or perceived threat that was in front of the dog gets moved away, because let's say that there was this altercation over the food bowl. Usually you're going to jump in and then separate the dogs.
Right.
Well, the dog viewed the other dog as something that was uncomfortable, scary, made him anxious, made him fearful. It wants distance and space. The more distance and space, the safer it feels. So if my outward behavior of being aggressive and reactive can have the consequence that either that dog runs away, or you or some other person get in there and intervene and separate them, that behavior becomes functional.
Exactly.
It gets the dog distance and space, which makes it feel safer. And that's the motivating factor behind that behavior. And what we've got to do is, we've talked about it already several times in today's show, and that is about presenting triggers and pairing high-value positive food rewards, creating that association, but doing that at a distance where the dogs don't have a care in the world. Because if the emotional state is, I've got to care, I've got a concern, I'm anxious, I'm fearful, you will never desensitize your dog.
And so to kind of answer the overall question here, which is, how do we help this dog learn? Well, your question was, how do you help this dog learn its place in the pack, right? Well, here's the thing. Every dog in the pack should have a nice, good emotional state. Every dog should feel comfortable in their own skin. It's not about who is and is not in charge. It's just about being able to live a good quality of life and feel happy. So the first step here is, you have a 9-month-old dog that is absolutely displaying very concerning behaviors. Things that I believe personally may be rooted in something genetic, maybe neurochemical. We may even be looking at some sort of trauma response. I don't know anything about this dog's history, but what I do know for certain is that this requires the hand of a professional. I can sit here and I can walk you through some of these steps like we have with the counter conditioning and desensitization, but without actually getting a real behavior consultant involved to help you change your dog's behavioral state, their emotional state, the way that the neurochemicals are interacting with the external world, or the external world is interacting with them, causing certain neurochemicals to fire off. We need to change and build new neural pathways.
And let me just say this. You need to make sure that when you're looking for a professional, that you have found and you've looked for a certified canine behavior consultant. There's plenty of dog trainers out there that they've got good intentions, but their level of understanding and education is very little. And, maybe on the outside, it seems to make sense that when a dog acts that way, we need to show them who's boss. We need to punish them. And all we have to do is punish them and show them who's boss. And, they'll stop doing that. Well, the problem is that sounds great, except that's not what's happening. All that happens is you are suppressing that behavior. You haven't changed the underlying emotional state.
Here, I've got a little metaphor that I like.
But let me just say this: you've used fear, pain, and intimidation to one level or another when you use punishment, when you use aversives, to get the dog to stop behaving. You've done nothing for the emotional state, and that's going to build and build. and it's going to get worse. And give your analogy of what we're looking at.
So imagine that your dog was a pot of water, okay, that you put on the stove, and the fire underneath of that pot is his anxiety. Right. And then when you put your hand over the pot, there's hot steam raising off of it. Those are the symptoms of his anxiety, the aggression, the resource guarding, the snapping, the lunging, the cowering, the drooling, whatever the symptom is of the anxiety that you can see. And so what we do when we correct the dog, we correct the symptom. That's taking an airtight lid and putting it right on top of that boiling pot of water. Now, when you put your hand over that pot, you're not going to feel any steam. There's no heat rising anymore that you can tell. But we never turned off the fire. We did not take care of the anxiety, what was actually causing those symptoms. So inside of this pot of water, pressure is just building and building and building. And then you go over to the stove and you check the pot because you want to check your noodles that you're boiling, right? Normally, this isn't going to be a problem, But because you have a pressurized pot, as soon as you rattle that pot just a little bit, it explodes. And what that represents is maybe your dog is laying on the couch, and normally you can sit down on the couch next to him, and he's not going to care. But because he is so worked up internally, you sit down next to him, you touch him, and he snaps.
Because the fear gets worse when you use punishment. You might be able, things might look good, but the trainers are fooled all the time. They think that, they show them who's boss, they're going to correct them, the dog stops the behavior. Within 3 months, it always comes back, and it comes back much worse.
So much worse.
Because there's so much more increased anxiety.
So I guess what we're saying is, firstly, do some research into counter conditioning and desensitization, but also contact yourself a professional.
You can get hurt. This is not easy stuff.
This is what we do every day, and it's not easy. It really isn't.
What did you say would be the certified behavioral? What was it?
So go to CC. That's cat, P like Paul, D like David. Did I do that right? Here,
yeah.
Certified.
ccpdt.org.
ccpdt.org. And then do a search by zip code, and then look for certified behavior consultants. Okay. They're the people that are specifically trained to deal with the more serious issues like aggression, fears, phobias, anxiety,
and
reactive
here's the next
behavior.
thing, Lisa. We do offer. I train with clients all over the country, all the time, even at distance. So if you would like to work with us, please just shoot me a text at that same number, and we can get in contact later today after the show, and maybe we can see what we can do to help you out. But yeah, thank you for calling in. I hope that you have a fantastic day, and I really wish you luck in resolving this issue.
All right. Appreciate the call. Yes, absolutely. And when we appreciate your calls. We appreciate your questions. Do us a favor. Hit that
unknown caller.
Do us a favor. Hit that like button and hit that share button. I think we got another caller. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, we do. Let's see.
All right, who do we got here?
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for calling in. This is Pet Talk Today. Is this, I think this is Russ, isn't it?
It is.
Hi,
and
Russ,
how is
long-time
things
listener
there this morning?
Yeah, long time.
Yes,
What's going on, Russ?
I've been watching you on Facebook. Well, my sister up in the city has a dog.
Russ.
Yeah.
Sorry, we don't train husbands, wives, kids, or sisters.
Okay. Well, it's her dog that's the problem.
Oh, okay. All right, we can help you with that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, her dog is still just terrified of going outside by himself because after the 4th of July. And what is some suggestions
All right,
to help
so
her that I can tell her?
So, Russ, the dog is still scared to death right now today, and that started on the 4th of July?
Yes.
Okay, here's the deal.
2 months.
Yeah. We've got a dog that
Or a month.
has been traumatized. Okay, that's PTSD. Normal dogs, every dog's going to have a startle response. Every animal gets startled. But most animals, when they're startled, they recover quickly. They recover 5 minutes, 10 minutes. They're better. When the fireworks stop, they recover. They go back to baseline normal. We've got weeks and weeks of a dog that is staying in this emotional state as if the fireworks are still going on. Okay. That is something that you need to tell her that she needs to find a veterinary behaviorist. Okay. Because this is a dog, just like people that experience trauma and their response to it is so over the top. This dog is most likely, and we're not veterinarians, I'm not giving medical advice, but we work with a large percentage of these type dogs where they need behavioral medicine along with behavior modification.
Yeah.
Because when it's so scary to go outside when there's no threat, and the dog's been experiencing that level of fear for this long a time, and the dog hasn't recovered. The dog is not just responding to external stimuli. The dog is responding to internal stimuli. And the dog is stuck in the amygdala.
Right.
It's stuck in this fight.
That's what he won't do is go out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Russ, what's going on?
Not unless he's with with her.
Yeah. So I know that I'm pretty certain I see you in our comments almost every Saturday. But did you watch our fireworks and thunderstorm episode?
Yes, but my sister didn't tell me about this till about maybe last week.
Okay, so then what I want you to do, shoot us an email. Shoot us an email at info, that's INFO, at pettalktoday.com, and just put in the subject line.
I've got that.
Yeah, just put in the subject line, the fireworks. We're going to send you a link to that episode, and we're also going to send you I believe, is it 10 hours?
Yeah.
We have a 10-hour video of fireworks sounds and instructions at the beginning of how to start utilizing that to help desensitize the dog. And I want you to give this information to your sister and have her start doing the work.
Now, that is something that I want to start after she has taken her dog to see a veterinary behaviorist, okay? Because this is severe.
Okay.
This is severe. And we don't want something to be done wrong and make it worse.
Right.
Okay. So let's get this dog to, veterinarian, a veterinary behaviorist. And you're just going to have to look up online and Google veterinary behaviorist near me. Make sure they're actually a veterinarian.
Yeah.
All right, because you really need that. You need to talk to somebody that understands behavioral medicine.
Yeah. What part of the country are you located in, Russ?
We're in West Virginia.
West Virginia? Yeah, I'm not familiar with the behavior consultants over there.
We've got a lot of listeners in West Virginia, but maybe we can find one. Make a note, Jordan. We can find one, and when he sends the email, we'll go ahead and refer out to it. But go ahead.
My dog's good with loud noises and things. Matter of fact, when there's a thunderstorm, he'll run out the door barking and trying to chase it off.
Yeah, I've got a dog that's like that as well, and then I got another one that initially was really, really scared. So
absolutely,
dogs can respond differently, and like I said, some it's normal to perhaps be startled. Some dogs won't be, but it's normal for most dogs, most animals to be startled if they weren't expecting that to happen. But it's absolutely abnormal, completely pathological to be afraid to go outside several weeks later.
Yeah, maybe a day would be somewhat acceptable, but weeks not really. Thanks for calling in, Russ. I hope that you get this figured out.
Thank you.
Forward to get your email.
Absolutely. I'm Will Bangura.
And I'm Jordan Marsteller.
And you've been listening to Pet Talk Today here on Facebook Live on the Pet Talk Today page. Be sure to like our page. Be sure to like our page. Be sure to also share this video and hit that like button so that more people can benefit from this. Let's take that call that came in.
Thanks for calling in. This is Pet Talk Today. State your name and where you're calling from.
Hi, this is Sandy Lamoureux. I'm calling from Davis, Illinois.
Hello.
Hey, Sandy.
Illinois.
Hi.
So what's your question?
I'm calling because I have a 7-year-old spayed Boston Terrier that, as of a year ago, suddenly turned very aggressive towards all dogs, especially our 2 that we have.
Okay.
We've spent a ton of money on veterinarians and trainers and behaviorists, and she's just gotten worse. And now recently, she's had a problem with not wanting to eat her food unless I put it in her mouth. And it's like, oh, okay. And I thought, can this be a smell issue?
No, I think it's a behavior that's been reinforced as far as the food thing. You said that you've spent a lot of money on veterinarians. So I'm assuming, but I want to ask, you've brought up this problem with your regular vet.
Yes, 2 different veterinarians.
Okay.
They've done full blood work. They've done full exams, x-rays.
Yeah. And did you know if they did a thyroid test?
Yes, they did.
Okay, good. They did a thyroid test. So everything seems to be okay. All right.
Right.
So one of the things that, we look for too is, there are other medical conditions that regular veterinarians are not well trained, educated, and that are the syndromes, the illnesses, the diseases that occur in the brain. For some reason, that organ of the body gets overlooked.
Yeah.
That somehow it's not an organ that gets sick sometimes. Now, I'm not saying that this is the case with your dog, but if you've had lots of trainers, you've been doing lots of different things, you've been doing it right, and it's not working. All right. If you put the work in, there's probably a neurochemical component, not necessarily the cause, because usually there's multiple factors that are involved that cause the behavior. It's usually not just one thing. But I didn't hear you say, but maybe you did, that you saw a board-certified veterinary behaviorist.
No, I did not.
Okay.
I don't even know if we have one in our area.
You do.
I'll have to look.
You've got 1 or 2 in Illinois that I'm.
Okay.
Yeah. So I want you to send.
I did write down your link.
Yeah, I want you to send us an email and put in there where you live and that you need a referral for a veterinary behaviorist. Okay.
Okay.
Because that's who you need to be talking to first. We need to rule out any type of medical thing that a regular vet wouldn't necessarily pick up because it's just not their area of expertise.
Yeah.
We've got specialties now for everything. We got veterinary cardiologists, veterinary nutritionists. We've got veterinary, for everything. And so, they call them veterinary behaviorists. They're veterinary psychiatrists is what they are, to be honest with you.
Absolutely.
But yeah, that's where I would start with. And then also we can send you a link where you can find a behavior consultant that specializes in in these type of issues. Because again, there's a ton of dog trainers out there. There's no requirement in the dog training world to have any education, to have any certification.
What?
There's no oversight. There's no governing body.
Right.
There's no standards. So there's a lot of very well-intentioned people working with dogs that don't know what they're doing. And like I said, they're well-intentioned. They don't know that they don't know.
Exactly.
And so when we're dealing with these difficult behaviors, we need to make sure that we are dealing with somebody who is certified.
Absolutely.
And so we'll send you a link. If you'll put the name of your city and state in that, we'll be able to go ahead and find a veterinary behaviorist for you, and also find a behavior consultant. And that way we can send that to you. That's our recommendation with that, okay?
Absolutely.
I appreciate it. Because one of these dogs she grew up with, and at 7 years old, she just snapped.
Yeah. And a lot of times too, when we see everything's fine, and then just like boom, overnight, the behavior changes so drastically. A lot of times there's a medical
there's
contributing
some sort
factor.
Of medical factor going.
I don't want to scare you, but there could be a brain tumor. That wasn't checked for,
Yeah.
So
no, they won't X-ray her or anything because they said they can't see enough in her little compact brain. Or compacted
you'd have to do an MRI, CAT scan, something like that. But we usually don't do that. But start with getting us an email, and we'll get those referrals over to you.
All right.
Wonderful.
All right.
And your email is on the website?
Let's give it to you. So it's going to be info.
INFO at pettalktoday.com. Again, that is info, INFO at pettalktoday.com.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, gentlemen.
All right. You have a fantastic
Appreciate your time.
Appreciate the call. Appreciate the call.
All right. Here we go. And actually, I see you giving the countdown. I do have a little extra if we want to take a couple more.
We'll do one more.
Yeah. So we have a question
almost
that
out
would
of time.
be fantastic for you.
Okay.
from Michelle. Michelle says that she had male cats since they were babies, and they are brothers. They are 2 years old, and due to COVID-19, she's been having a hard time getting them fixed. She's hoping to hear from a vet soon, but her boys are mostly outside farm cats, but they are fighting and not liking the other cat in the same place. What can she do in the meantime until she can get them fixed?
Help me understand, Jordan. These are two cats in the same household that are fighting?
Yep, brothers, and they get along with each other, but I guess that there's another cat that is not related to them.
Okay.
And they're fighting with this other farm cat.
They're fighting with the other farm cat. Okay.
Yeah.
We've talked about this over and over again, and that is when we have an unwanted behavior, we need to manage the environment. We need to set it up so that the cat cannot re-engage in that behavior. The cat cannot rehearse that behavior, so that behavior doesn't continue to get conditioned and ingrained. We need to start the whole process of introducing and integrating the cats all over again. And you're going to start by separating them. And they need to be separated far enough where they're not hissing and doing that. Okay, I'm not talking about having one behind a gate and the other cat's there and they're hissing between the gate. Okay, that's barrier frustration, that barrier aggression. But we're going to separate them, and now what you're going to do is you're going to get a sock for each cat. And each cat has their own sock. You're going to put that sock on your hand, and you're going to pet that cat all over with that sock. And you're going to go from cat to cat, and you're going to start petting and changing these socks. What you're doing is you're putting all the cat's scents together. You're putting the scent together. And you're rubbing them with it. And you need to do that for a couple weeks. All right. And then what you need to also do, and I actually like this, and the research is there, cat appeasing pheromones. Okay. Cat appeasing pheromones. Comfort Zone, I think, is one of the brands. I like the one where you got the plugins, and what it is, it's a pheromone. It's a synthetic pheromone that the mother cat would produce when she has a litter of kittens, and it helps keep them calm. So I'm a big believer of, for cats anyway, doesn't do much for the dogs, but for the cats, definitely is a... Yeah, we're going to have to, our battery's going dead soon.
Yeah.
But definitely I would try that with your cats. But then again, like I said, you got to intermingle the scent with them. Now, after that, when you start bringing them out, bring one out and have the other two in a kennel so they can get closer. And again, you can do the same thing we talked about with dogs. Feed. High value food rewards, tuna, something yummy. When the cat sees the other cats, and then separate them. Stop feeding as soon as you separate. Bring them back together. Feed. Separate them. Bring them back together. Feed. So that you're associating something very positive with the cats. And you've got to rotate them, and it's got to be one at a time. Once they have started to have a positive experience where they are in cat carriers and things of that nature, and you've done all this work, then you bring two together. Okay, but I would start with getting a cat toy and start playing with them, again, creating a positive experience. But what happens a lot of time with cats is you guys just throw them together. Same thing that people do with dogs, and you can't always do that. Not every cat's a social butterfly, and you got to take your time to introduce them. Well, listen, we are out of time.
Absolutely, we are.
It's been a great show. Appreciate everybody that has called in with a question. Appreciate those that have typed in questions. Do us a favor, hit that like button right now. Hit that share button. Share this video. Share the show to your timeline. And please tell your friends and family all about Pet Talk Today so that more people can benefit from what we have to offer. Like we say in the beginning, not everybody can afford private in-home training. Be sure to join us next week on the 6th. We're going to have Dr. Karen Becker, veterinary nutritionist. We're going to be interviewing her.
Yeah.
And we're going to be talking about her book, The Forever Dog. Have a great weekend, everybody. We are out of here.